call the meeting to order. I'd like to call the May 8th, 2025 Longmont Airport Advisory Board meeting to order. Could we start with the attendance?
Chairperson Melinda Jordan.
Here.
Chairperson Dan Meester.
Here.
Board Member Malcolm Dean.
Here.
Board Member Steve Shuck.
Here.
Board Member Matt Gibson.
Here.
Board Member Charles Schilling.
He knows he's getting it, doesn't he?
City Council Member Matthew Larkin. Airport Manager Levi Brown.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First up is public invited to be heard. Just a reminder, you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and your address. Please direct your comments to the board and be civil. I think that's the only other thing. And we don't do a sign up, so just go ahead and come forward when you see that the podium is available. First call.
Are we on there? Good deal. Good evening. Scott Store, 229 Grant Street, Longmont. Chairperson Jordan, members of the advisory board. I hope to hear tonight some discussion and concern for the aircrafts that have flown over Longmont that do not make it to the airport. I'm sure you guys have all heard about the plane that went down. Good. Appreciate that. It's troubling to me that the activities do not get reported by the airport unless events happen within the boundaries of the airport property. I've spoke here before about skydivers off-site and no reports, no knowledge of it. We just don't even want to talk about it. There has been a fair bit of concern in the past airport advisory board meetings about the Modern West development projects. Were these concerns truly about safety, or were they about the development encroaching closer to the airport? If they're about safety, I think we should be talking about all the flights that go over town here, especially the flights that leave. We all know that flights are more likely to go down upon takeoffs and landings. How do we avoid this over top of the city? I mean, we're lucky these planes went down in a field, not over top of the city. If we're truly concerned about safety for the Modern West stuff, why do we not share the same concerns about the number of aircraft that fly directly over the city upon departure? Hey, going through some of the stuff, general aviation operations, voluntary noise abatement procedures, and voluntary procedures should be utilized to the full extent possible unless prevented by required distance, operating parameters, traffic conditions, air traffic control. Basically, most of these should be done if you're a single plane flying there, and there's no reason not to follow these things. Arrivals, fly a tight left downwind pattern within half mile to 3/4 of a mile of the runway. We've got technology, everybody can see it on your computer. You can see where these planes are circling. It ain't within a half mile and it ain't within 3/4 of a mile of the runway. If a plane is circling, and pattern work is the same thing, half mile, 3/4 of a mile. If a plane's circling within the pattern, especially if it's a single plane, it shouldn't even approach Hover Road. That's well beyond a half mile or 3/4. It should be a much tighter circle than that. We have the ability to look at this and see this in real time. Can we just make a communication to the pilots or the plane owners that are doing these extended pattern work and let them know that there's a neighborhood below us? I know everybody gets a little bit concerned about my call for landing fees. I think you guys should start generating a little bit more revenue for yourselves. Your charges and services are only $166,000. If you just charge $5 at the current operational rate, that's more than $600,000. That's your entire budget. The rest of your budget comes from grants and funds and giveaways. It's not, the airport doesn't generate this revenue that you guys keep touting about with what is that, CDOT report? The airport has the ability to pay for itself. Do a weight-based, simple landing fee. I'm sure a pilot, if they can do a $100 hamburger, they can pay $5 to land a Cessna. It's not a big deal. I appreciate your time. Look forward to hearing some discussion about the aircraft that don't make it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Go ahead.
Good evening. Michelle Poole, Poole, 6024 St. Vrain Road, Longmont. Good evening, and thanks for being given the opportunity to speak here. I'm speaking today on behalf of many Longmont residents who have seen a significant decline in our quality of life due to an issue that continues to grow and go unaddressed, which is the sharp and sustained increase in low-flying aircraft activity over our community. We've been here, my husband and I have been here over 8 years, and some of our neighbors have been here 30 years. And they say they have never heard noise like this. Over the last 14 months, we have witnessed a dramatic uptick in the number of flights in our skies. On average, a flight now takes off or lands every 4 minutes. That's 15 times an hour, every hour, often beginning as early as 6 a.m. in the morning and continuing well into the evening, sometimes until 10 p.m. or later. This is not occasional or incidental traffic. As you probably are aware, the vast majority of these flights are touch-and-go exercises, repetitive training maneuvers conducted by flight schools. And more than 90% of these flights come from outside of Longmont. Our community is bearing the burden of the noise, the pollution, and the disruption, while others benefit. We have brought this issue over the last year to the mayor, to the city council, and to the county commissioner. Hundreds of emails have been sent to our representatives and to the airport. And yet, despite these efforts, nothing has changed. In fact, things are getting worse. The peace that many residents once enjoyed in Longmont is slipping away, and there appears to be no end in sight. Please let me be clear, we are not against the airport. We fully support Longmont having its own airport. But this is not an airport problem, it's a flight school problem. We're not advocating for closure or drastic measures. What we're asking for is some balance and restoration of the peace that we once enjoyed. In fact, my husband has actually spoken to a local pilot recently who shares our concerns about the impact this is having on the community and who wants to be part of the solution. That tells me that we're not actually that far apart as it may seem. What we would like to propose tonight is that we come together, residents, local pilots, city council, and airport representatives, and begin an open and collaborative dialogue. Together we can discuss the issue and work towards a solution that supports both aviation and the community. We're not here to fight, we're here to be heard and to work together towards a sustainable future for everyone who lives, works, and flies in Longmont. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rick Basselier. I have a hangar and an airplane in Longmont. I think that it can best be addressed. I'm not sure how, but the problem is the crux is flight instructors and how poorly they instruct. There's an article in this month's Cessna Pilots Association magazine, and Mike Bush speaks to that. I sent him back a response to his article agreeing with them and letting them know that in the interest of safety, we need to tighten up the flight instructors. That's the problem. They don't know how to flight instruct. I told Mike, I said, I think that the first problem that we have is that the box that they check on their 8710-1 form, which is a form for a certificate or rating, that says that they read, speak, and understand English. The problem is you can't prove it, because I've flown 250 different makes and models of singles and twins over my 12,000 hours in the air. And I can tell you, I have never seen in 50 years of flying ever a pilot's operating handbook that differs from this. And that is on the approach profile, every airplane from a little one to the P Navajo that I fly that's 7,800 pounds, it's power off at the virtual 50-foot obstacle over the end of the runway with full flaps. That's the way it's supposed to be done. And it's also, if you read the AIM, it speaks to having a half mile to a mile at the most downwind. That would mean that your base and your final, due to the geometry, is going to be a mile. And that's where it should be, and we shouldn't be flying over homes. That's true, but I'm not sure how to approach it. We can talk around the campus and see what's going on, how we can get to the flight instructors, because they're landing halfway down the runway on a density altitude day that's 7,000 to 8,000 feet, and then they're doing a touch and go. When they're using 1-1 and they go by my hangar, which is about 1,000 feet from the approach end of 2-9, there's 25 or 50 feet, maybe 100 feet in the air. Well, we all talk, pilots talk about the impossible turn. Well, the impossible turn is that you depart and your engine quits and you can't make it back to the runway. And they make it. The flight instructors make it an impossible turn, with landing halfway down the runway and then doing a touch and go. They're too low over these homes and stuff. I'm sorry, I don't have a magic pill, but we do need to get together and tighten up these flight instructors. One fellow talked to me about a flight school in Greeley, maybe, that says that they want, we ask for, and I think Levi can tell me if I'm wrong, 500-foot climb out on departure before we turn crosswind. So their rules are 700 feet. Well, that throws a monkey wrench in the whole works, because you keep getting longer and longer and longer patterns. Anyway, I don't know what to do to fix it, but landing fees won't do it. I think that's, first of all, I don't think that that the FAA will give us the right, City Council, to use ADS-B data, because when they came out with ADS-B, that's what we were promised, that it wouldn't be punitive, that it wouldn't be used against us. So, something to think about. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chad Renicky, 907 Champion Circle, and airport user and hangar owner. I agree with some of the stuff that Rick talks about. It is a safety problem with the patterns that are happening out there. It's a traffic problem. I'm the guy that talked with EK. We got together one day for lunch and talked, and it's an issue of traffic, too much traffic, and unsafe operations by students that are being taught by instructors that were taught wrong. We're about 4 generations into some really bad instruction. I propose that you make a motion that Levi goes and personally, physically talks to each one of these schools, these flight schools, and talk to them about the safety and the use of our airport. It is our airport. We pay for the airport. They're coming in, they're using our airport. They're not paying for our airport. I'm against fees because we do have enough, we're paying enough in fees and fuel and leases as it is. But I think there needs to be something said to these flight schools about, they can use our airport, but use it on a limited basis, I mean, when EK and I got together for lunch, he showed me some data where there was people that were doing 15 touch and goes. Man, maybe I'm a slow student, and I'm sure I am. I couldn't have done more. I couldn't even have done 10. That would have been my limit. There's just too much going on, and I was done after 7 or 8 touch and goes. But the use of it, I mean, there's other airports. Get them to use Boulder. Get them to use Erie. Get them to use Greeley. Get them to use Fort Morgan, but not just Longmont. I was out flying today, and to your point, I turned to base east of Home Depot. If I would have lost an engine, I would have been in the parking lot of Home Depot. I was number 3 in that pattern out of about 6 or 7 airplanes. The traffic is a problem. The safety is a problem. It always cracks me up when I hear instructors say, yeah, we're going to practice an engine out. Every landing in my game is an engine out landing. I'm not playing a game where I'm going to be playing, getting outside the pattern where I can't make it if I have an engine out. But I think our airport manager I think it can be solved by him getting out and talking to these schools and talking to these other airports about the use of our airport. It's going to ruin it. It's going to ruin it for all of us. And to the point about landing fees, I don't like the traffic coming across town. Are we going to start charging tolls on 9th Avenue or Main Street? I doubt it. Let's not start charging tolls at the airport. Okay.
Thank you.
Howard Morgan, 1932 Amethyst Drive, Longmont. I've been a hangar owner here for well over 25 years. And the stories coming out about the city council wanting to charge $10 for landing, which I vehemently oppose for the number of reasons. Number one, we on the airport pay a major fee to be on the airport, and to charge us another $10 for every landing is just ridiculous. The other thing is the poor lady that has the food cart would be devastated because people with little airplanes are not going to pay $10 to come in and buy a $10 hamburger. It just ain't going to happen. I mean, even if they have the money, it's just an aggravation, and they're not going to put up with it. Number 3 is the fuel sales would be hurt. And 4, if they're going to use ADS-B to track airplanes for landing, they're going to find out that the FAA is vehemently against that, because ADS-B was created for safety, not for people calling in and complaining, not for collecting landing fees. On the other hand, I agree with the other 2 fellows that talked about the traffic. It's horrible. And because we have airplanes coming from, or school airplanes coming from other airports, and the flight instructors are terrible. They are not following the standard procedure for a traffic pattern, which is causing them to fly over houses and places that don't need to be flown over, which is one of the reasons that's creating the noise problem. So I would love to hope that you would pass some of this along to the city council and tell them that the landing fee is terrible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Going once. Going twice. We will have a second public invited to be heard at the end. Next up is approval of our minutes from the April meeting. And
Melinda, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Next up is approval of the minutes from our April meeting. Did anybody see any revisions? Go ahead.
Page 2, line 15, verses should have a U in between the S's to have the proper verses. Not verses like is a poem.
Anything else? Thank you, Matthew. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay, none. Thank you. Minutes are approved. Next up is updates from the airport manager.
All right. It's got a few updates today. Not so many. Certainly shorter than last month when we were fortunate to have the Southern Master Drainage Plan presentation. First thing, AWAS, and I'll put this on the next airport information bulletin I put out too. We're having some issues with the AWAS at the airport. We've run into a condition where we now have the oldest AWAS in the state. It is approved to be run with a landline for those who want to access it by phone. The telephone company is no longer supporting that landline out to the AWAS, and yet the FAA says that's the only thing that's approved to be hooked up to that AWAS to report weather via telephone. So we're in discussions with the FAA and with DBT, the company that does the maintenance on that AWAS, to see if we can find a workaround solution that's acceptable to everybody. So that is in the works. So point of notification there. We are working on that. Sunday at around noonish, there was an off-field landing right next to the airport. I can't speak with any authority onto what exactly occurred. Preliminary reports suggest that it was an aircraft which had partial power lost and landed off of the end of the runway after doing a missed approach or a go-around. And that's all the official information we actually have on that at the moment. Crack seal. So we talked about the ramp rehab, the crack seal construction work that was going to start at last meeting. It has started now, started the 1st of May. The initial contract for them was for 10 days to get all that work done. It was very quickly altered to 16 days, and we're in day, I want to say 12 now. So seeing how they're only on stage 1 of 3, I'm guessing that's going to be altered again. So unfortunately, that project going a little slower than we thought it would. Weather's had an effect on that too. So they've had some equipment breakdowns and stuff like that. But that program is moving forward. Any questions on any of those items?
Okay.
Got it.
So you say that the contract's been extended. Are they giving extras towards that project? Is it costing extras?
No. So that was a bid contract. So it costs what we bid, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the discussion has been had it is what it is. So
Yeah.
hopefully they're doing their best to move forward and make
So
it. Yeah.
they're saw cutting, and are they filling those saw cuts at some point?
So what they're doing is they're going back along the cracks, and yes, essentially saw cutting them. Although it's not like they're
They're
cutting
reaming them out.
They're essentially
Yeah.
reaming. There's a good
Yeah.
way of putting it. They're essentially reaming them out. Then they're going back in with backer rod
Right.
and filling that, and then they're going back in with high strength epoxy
Okay.
to fill those cracks. And of course, the ultimate goal of that all is to extend the life of the apron out there.
Are they putting a coating on the concrete afterward?
Not on the concrete. That would be for if it was asphalt. They do like a fog
Yeah,
seal.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But they're going to restripe everything and
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I know the weather was the issue because I went by one night and trying to figure out what was going on out there. But that rain set them back. They were out there with leaf blowers trying to dry it off. I'm going to go to
So about the airport landing fees, I've done some digging for everybody that's interested. Oh, that better. Okay.
So I think that would probably come under staff comments, wouldn't it? Okay. Is there anything on the items I mentioned, AWAS, crack seal, off-field landing? Specific, and we'll move on next, and after that, the noise
I do have a
abatement.
question on the AWAS. So
right, go for it.
we have the oldest AWAS in the state.
Yeah.
And it's serviced by POTS, plain old telephone service.
It's so I forget the telephone company, but it's essentially the issue that I've fleshed out with city IT and with the DBT is that the landline that is going to it is super sketchy. No one works on it anymore. The telephone company doesn't want to support it. They're charging us an insane amount of money every month for it, something like $500 or something like that.
So it's 2 Dixie cups, some string in between.
Yeah, indeed. It's like 2 days. That's a good way of putting it. So we floated the idea of, hey, why don't we put a cellular repeater on this? We got the cell tower right there. This would be so much more efficient. But then it came back from the FAA. It's like, well, wait a second. It's not approved to operate that way. So we're in the middle of it. I feel like this is a logical enough of a situation where we will come to a solution. But until that point, it's going to be a little bit of a pain because it's going to flicker off and on out of the telephone accessibility.
Well, that was leading into my question.
Yeah.
Why don't we get a cellular download into it?
Yeah, so that's
Which would be the easiest.
that's my suggestion. We'll see if that happens or not.
Can't always reason with the FAA.
Indeed.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. Thanks.
I guess the question would be replacing it, and is that something that is covered by fuel tax grant returns?
A grant for new AWAS would potentially be viable. That would, of course, with all with many grants, that would be a CDOT grant. That would be discretionary, so we would have to understand going into that. A lot of the potential success of getting that grant would depend on CDOT's willingness to work with us.
It could be a safety issue.
From their standpoint, at the
Is
moment, it's still being broadcast. So there's nothing issue with the radio or anything like that. It's
Okay,
purely
it's just the
telephone.
call-in? Okay.
Yeah, it's just purely call-in. So it's more of a convenience at the moment issue. So it's not hypercritical. So hopefully, my hope is that we can get this fixed currently, and then start the procedures or the processes of building good relation with CDOT and trying to get some discretionary money promised too.
I call it, but it's just to check the weather, so not when I'm flying, because it's not flying weather. What do we know the price tag on a new system?
We don't know yet.
No idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what they're saying, though. Okay. Are there any other questions? So the crack
Just-
seals on the ramp are just,
Yeah.
they've been delayed by weather, and they're just going to keep working until
There's
it's
been
done.
some weather's been some issues,
And they've
there's
been working
some,
at night. Yeah, they were working.
and they were doing some night work there for a while to try to get caught up.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're continuing to kind of adjust the schedule and try to do what's best for getting things to move forward.
Thank you. Any other questions about those items? Did you? Yes, hold on, Matt.
I can move on to information items then.
Hang
Is
on
that
just a second here.
Yeah.
There you go, Matt.
Do you have a time frame on when it will be fixed, and then like when it will be replaced with something new?
So
Just a broad time frame.
Yeah, replacement, no. And again, that's highly dependent upon access to fund. Those systems are incredibly expensive. So we would pretty much be reliant upon grant monies for that. So yeah, there's a lift to that with CDOT at the moment. And it was another part of your question?
In the fix, what's the time frame?
So I checked in with DBT yesterday. He was meeting with his supervisor, I think it was today, and he promised me that he would send me a new email by this weekend with whatever came out of their discussion. So hopefully there was some brainstorming going on with that crew that we can then take to City IT and the FAA and see if we can get a solution.
Thank you, Levi. Do you still have other items?
No, not for item number 5.
Okay, let's move to number 6, which is the noise abatement program.
Okay, information item, noise abatement program. I'm just looped in real quick. I think I started talking about last year, summer conferences, AAAE, Colorado Airport Operators Conference I'm planning on going to. And one of the ones that I'm trying to make sure we can kind of get the funding to go to is the AAAE's also got a noise conference they've been doing for a while. So that's something I'm hoping to participate in this year. That would be in November, if I recall correctly. I think I might have mentioned that at the last meeting, but I couldn't recall. So I wanted to make sure I touched my bases on that. The Front Range Noise Abatement Program meeting is going to be on the 29th, and I did get a promise from Aerosphere here that they will send a representative from their flight school. So I and the airport manager at Rocky Mountain Metropolitan, the airport manager at Centennial has also been invited, or getting all the flight schools together to have a flight school meeting. So essentially we will be addressing all of the flight schools and speaking about many of these issues that we've been talking about. So that is on the 29th. I think those were the only 2 things I had for the noise abatement program this week.
Do you have an agenda for the meeting this month with the flight schools? Have
There
you
isn't.
seen-
Yeah, there wasn't one sent out.
Okay. How do you perceive that going, or how will that be?
So
is it going to be a round table, or are you going to be?
To my understanding, it'll mostly be a round table. So this is a kind of it's not new for Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. They've been doing it since before the pandemic. But it's kind of changing in how it's being organized. So Eric, the new manager now, there's kind of been focused at, trying to be more productive, flight school invitations, and having chats with people. So essentially the directed conversation to address the hot topic issues, noise specifically, procedures, patterns, stuff like that. So that's kind of how that meeting's going to go. I'm, very thrilled that our local flight school was more than happy to participate. I know that all the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan flight schools are required to. We'll be there. I know Centennial's been invited, so hopefully they'll have some participation too in that.
I guess in light of the comments, is it going to be management at the meeting, or is it going to be actual instructors, or I would ask you to be sure to find a way that discussion gets to the actual.
I imagine that's going to be upper management, and it's going to probably be your safety pilots. It's going to be your pilots to do the trainings, that do the check airmen and stuff like that for standardization. So it's going to be an educational, and to my understanding, we're trying to reach those individuals who are responsible for that. We have done, or at least I was a participant in past years when they did all flight instructor meetings, and they were less than manageable. I know that they've been trying to make those meetings more efficient and disseminate information in a more efficient manner.
Good. Do you feel like you've got what you need to go to that meeting and represent
certainly.
The concerns and the observable issues? Thank you. You don't need any additional input?
No, I think we're excellent on that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we've got lots of great communication points. I think I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a great dialogue, and I'm really excited to see these kind of becoming. They've always been doing them. There hasn't been a real set course to them. They did an annual one, they did biannual ones, and they're starting to roll into more of a set course, which would be great and be something more reliable and dependable.
Yeah, because every day I bet they get new instructors, and
that's why continuing to have them on a set schedule is important, because there's always new instructors, so you always need to keep touching base and making sure information is getting through.
Yeah. Good. I think that's definitely, and we're coming into spring and summer now, so it's more training. We do, we recognize that we have an increased population in the Front Range, so there's an increase in cars, lines at the grocery store, trying to get a medical appointment, and people training for flight. And it's an attractive place to train, so it's a little bit circular at times on how you manage a good problem that we have people training and yet still a problem. And so education seems to always be the answer, especially in aviation. I appreciate you taking the time to be there and go to that and speak on behalf of the tenants of the airport. I know you see our flight school every day, so it's really getting that word out. I appreciate that you take the time to do that. Thank you. And then hopefully you can go to the meeting, the noise meeting in November. That'd be good. We'll be interested to hear if you're able to go to that, and then just what the takeaways
Yep.
are and how
I
you
will
can
be
share
there
that.
on the 29th along with representative from Aerosphere. So it'll be great.
On the 29th, yeah, and then if you get to go to the one in November with AAA.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be,
the conference, yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Awesome. Does anybody else have questions for Levi? I see a couple of green.
Okay. I've got a suggestion when you're at that meeting. Can you suggest like a voluntary maximum 5 touch and goes? Leave Longmont, go to Erie, 4 miles away, do 5 more. Go to Boulder, do 5. If your student needs 20 touch and goes in a session, come back to Longmont after you do those others. That'll relieve a little bit. And I know it has to be voluntary, but it's getting pretty bad where these people are doing 20 touch and goes or landing and taxiing back. The patterns are inconsistent. I was walking the other day. Guy did his departure all the way to Highway 36 or about. Then he did a 2-mile crosswind and then 2-mile, turn to base from the end of the runway. And, he's so far out there. Then he landed midfield, takes off, and he flies 100 feet over those 2 houses at the end of 1-1. I mean, it's crazy stuff these guys are doing, and he was with an instructor. So, I get some of the aggravation, and we really do need to do something about it. If we can get rid of that kind of nonsense, I think a lot of the homeowners in the area, would give us a little grace for, the tenants at Longmont versus people coming over from everywhere. And, I'm a pilot. I own a hangar. We do want to be good neighbors. And, these instructors, are teaching their students incorrectly. And it's been a long time since I did touch and goes with an instructor, but yeah, 5 or 6, give the student a break and fly over to Erie, that little 4-mile break from the intense touch and go would do the student good. I did talk to a flight instructor from Boulder. He just moved his airplane to Longmont. And I mentioned that. And he goes, that's a pretty good idea. So I think when you're at this meeting, if you can get something like that, I think it would go a long way. Thank you.
For the sake of education, I would also remind everybody that just like the roads, if you're on the right-hand side doing the speed limit, you're following the law. So I feel for everybody. I live under downwind for 1-1. I'm right there. Work from home. Tuesday's the craziest day ever. But just like I can't tell people how to drive down the street if they're not breaking the law, there's how do we communicate this other than talking to the flight schools? And I know I've had a day where I was either a little bit heavy or it was hot or I wasn't going at full power and took a long time to get out of the pattern. I mean, it seems, I'm always wondering, there's words, but what are the actions behind the words and how do we get traction? And it is an education process. I think really just saying, this is the airport pattern. This is where you're supposed to stay. It was always just drilled into your head. You need to be there so you can get back to the runway. But we do have times where we're on an extended or going out to 36. I'd be going out because then I'd be heading down the foothills. And, we are able to use the air just like you can use your car to drive around town as long as you stay on the surfaces. And so it's a tough one because we really aren't, Levi doesn't direct traffic. There's not, even ATC isn't directing the traffic between the airports, and it's hard to tell somebody what to do. So it is just education, and the more we hit it, the more you put something up there, the better the odds are that it's going to stick. And I hope that in time, I also realize it is going to take some time, that we will start to notice it. We have had people observe, they've noticed, especially on specific aircraft from schools, they've noticed some improvement. So I think that's really the goal, and that there's a limit to how much we can control, though. I think there's an illusion that we can control things that happen, and we can't. And so just the flight school discussions, talking to people, it's really the best way to get this done, and for them to understand that they are disturbing people outside of that pattern. I appreciate the input. We have action items. Malcolm, did you want to hit your landing fee for the, we're up to number 7. We're on action. We can go ahead and take that. Do you want to do that, or do you want to wait till comments, Levi? Can we go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm done with my stuff.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So it's been brought to the attention of the city Longmont Airport Board about airport fees and landing fees. After doing a lot of digging, there are numerous general aviation airports across the country that have removed their airport landing fees due to not providing benefit to the airport. Number one, in response to the feedback from AOPA local pilots, Safford, Arizona City Council unanimously voted to immediately remove all landing fees at the Safford Airport for any aircraft under 4,000 pounds and for touch and go operations over 4,000 pounds on April 28th. In Capital City in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania, March 25th, 2019, removed landing fees at the Susquehanna Area Regional Airport Authority, owner and airport of the Capital City Airport, has eliminated the landing fee charged with any aircraft using the airport weighing 5,000 pounds or less, maximum gross. The reasoning was taking this action provides operators of small aircraft the opportunity to use the Capital City Airport more affordably, and we look forward to seeing increased aircraft activity this summer benefiting regional pilots, airport tenants, and surrounding community. If we tax the airport to death, it will go away. That's not a good way to do things. Number 3, the Rio Vista Regional Airport, California, City Council again unanimously adopted removing airport landing fees on August 20th, 2024. The reasoning was followed. These fees are not a significant source of revenue for the airport, and the imposition of landing fees can deter small aircraft operators, impact overall airport traffic. Eliminating the landing fees could stimulate increased air traffic, support economic growth in the region, and improve the overall competitiveness of our airport. By eliminating these fees, we aim to attract more general aviation, private aircraft, potentially increasing overall revenue through increased fuel sales, hangar rentals, and other services. So 3 airports throughout the U.S. already found that by implementing landing fees was more detriment than good. So that's why I propose to go to City Council and to say we don't need landing fees. We're already seeing airports push back and seeing it's not helping. The little bit they're taking with landing fees is actually costing them more business in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. The city has asked or has discussed landing fees as the advisory board. That is one of our jobs, is to provide information to the city. If you would like to make a motion, I could craft a letter to the city that of our recommendation that would be no landing fees. In the event of landing fees, we would need to, as an advisory board, provide them with some information. Could use the average for the state of Colorado, which is again over 12,500 at GA airports. There aren't any GA airports that charge less than 10,000, and some no piston engine as a rule. So they're targeting the larger aircraft that are carrying multiple people and way more, so much as trucks pay for it on the highway. I could write a letter to council if you want to make a motion that we discourage them instituting landing fees or considering it a usual and customary fee if they were to choose to at 12,500 and over. And we could do a flat fee for 12,000 and over. And instead of calculating by the pound, we could do a flat fee. We could do a special event fee for aircraft coming in for events, large events that would impact the airport. Sundance Film Festival being the top of mind right now, that would help cover expenses related to that additional traffic. And go ahead and get that over to council. And then they can let us know, they could come back with questions. Would anybody be interested in moving that we do that?
I make a motion that we write a letter to the city council with all their options and with being against landing fees, if not at least aircraft over 12,500 pounds.
I second the motion.
Do we have any discussion?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you
Yeah,
first. There you go.
I agree.
Oh, it went off. Go ahead one more time. There we go.
Great. I agree with the 12,500. A lot of airports throughout the United States charge that. What I would suggest is that I think we might have one or two aircraft at Longmont that's based there. I don't think they should be charged. They're paying enough in rent, taxes, property taxes. They shouldn't have to pay a landing fee to their home.
Agreed.
We can add that. That doesn't even need to be, the motion could include that. I actually did have that in my thinking, but I didn't say it. Tenants would be, airport tenants would be excused.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is there any other discussion? Did you want to say something, Malcolm?
No.
I don't think so. Okay. So that is moved in second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, I will write a letter. Do we have final public to be heard? Again, 5 minutes. Please state your name and address and direct your comments to the board.
Rick Basselier again. I 420 Nebraska Avenue in Berthoud with a hangar in Longmont. I sat back there and reflected and listened to people talk. I think that what I will do, unless I get beat over the head, I'd like to go to the FAST team, the FAA safety team, down at Denver FSDO. I know a few people down there. Used to be a pilot examiner. I've heard Levi talk about, and I think I've heard him say that he's gone to schools before and talked with these people. And it just sounds to me like if you voluntarily try to get anybody to do this, they haven't, has done no good, apparently. done no good. And so I doubt that the meeting on the 29th would do any good. I'm going to go to the FAST team, and I'm going to see if we can't get some teeth. Because what I've seen before, and when I was flying unlimited aerobatics, there were FAA POIs, Principal Operations Inspectors, here on the field watching people's operations. Mine was one of them. Anyway, so I think that's what we need. We need to get some way to get some teeth. And I think that's a good way to start it. And as long as you don't tell me no, I'll see if we can't get some help and push this, volunteer thing to where they're push a little bit harder, because they do. They'll fault you right on the field. So seen them do it. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Chad Renicky, 907 Champion Circle, airport user and hangar owner. Yes. They're not going to let us nuts go to the FAST. I've got a contact. FAST has been out there. They're not happy with what's going on out there. Levi, I hope that when you go to the meeting, the 29th, that you are insistent and very forward with telling them the safety and the problem with safety at the airport and the problem with traffic at the airport, and take a map of the pattern, because I was called by the FAA for someone that had complained about me. He was way outside the pattern, and the guy from the FAA actually said that if he was in the pattern, it wouldn't have been an issue. He actually lied on his report too. That's another whole item. But I hope you report back to us too about what happens down at that meeting. And yes, Rick and I are going to go to the FAST. I've got a contact. It's going to happen. We need to be better. We are good neighbors. We want to be good neighbors. We also want to be safe. I had another point, and I can't remember now. So I may have to get up a second time. Thank you.
You've still got time on the clock.
Remember yet? Your time's still going.
Not yet, go ahead.
You're right. Yeah, Scott Stewart, 229 Grant Street, chairperson, members of the board. Just a little bit of perspective here. I understand nobody wants to pay an extra fee or extra taxes or what have you. I pay far more than $10 to go to the airport in Denver and tolls. So I just don't have a lot of sympathy for saying no to a $5 landing fee. City Airport Fund. Just read you a little something. Fund description. Airport Enterprise Fund pays for all expenses associated with maintaining and improving Vance Brand Municipal Airport. These funds are derived from fees like your land lease fee for your hangars. That's what the city charges. And to be clear, those funds that you guys pay for a land lease, they don't leave the airport. Those funds stay at the airport. They're not allowed to come outside of the airport. So this idea that the airport is funding the city is misguided at best. Read you a little something from the Federal Aviation Administration, order number 5190.6B. 17-4, self-sustaining principles. Airports must maintain a fee and rental structure that makes the airport as financially self-sustaining as possible under the principles circumstances at that airport. You're supposed to be paying for yourselves. give you guys a little bit of perspective. I was looking at a mobile home to purchase a mobile home on 17th. It's a rundown mobile home park. The land lease fee for that is over $2 a square foot. The airport is less than 50 cents a square foot. You're crying about money for storing an airplane. People are paying 4 times more to live in Longmont. And you're offended by a small fee. It's disappointing. You guys can do better.
I remember what I
I could see that.
It's just a simple final statement is the parasite is eating the host. Those schools are taking advantage of our airport. We need to put a stop to that.
Michelle Poole, 6024 St. Vrain. Really, just on the back of what Chad was saying, Levi, when you go to this meeting, I think it would be great if we could get some visibility to the talking points, the specific. I know we can't mandate, it sounds like there's no mandates to these flight schools, but the recommendations or the requests, I think it would be very helpful for us all to have visibility to specifically what is being requested, whether it's the issues we've heard around like the flight paths not being respected, whether it's the safety issues. There's a long list, right? And I think rather than just sort of being vague about certain things and sort of, I think we should have a list and say these are our requests. And it sounds like, to your point, Melinda, that we're going to have to say it over and over again. But I think we've got to be really clear, and then we've got to be consistent and keep repeating it, right, until it happens, or at least until we see an improvement. So I think I would request of the board that we have some way to see that list of asks, and we have visibility to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Seeing no one, we'll come to board and staff comments. I'll go first. I know Levi will give us a report after his meeting, so we'll get that next month in his airport manager report. I was looking on FAST, and we used to have FAST seminars tied in with our air shows. We used to, back in the day when they weren't air shows, when they were fly-ins. And I've attended FAST classes in person, and you do get your points, sort of your forgiveness points if anything ever comes up in the future. And I think they help with my insurance probably too. So I do keep my points active through their classes. So they do have through NAFI, they've got teaching control in the pattern, back to basics in the pattern, collision avoidance in the pattern, collision avoidance, back to the basics in the pattern, teaching control in the pattern. So just on the FAA's FAST site with all the classes, I will go out and take them on my own. So it's, again, getting some traction with it. So perhaps when you talk to FAST, if we could host at the airport or over at the fire station, because they have more room, if we could host a class or down at Metro in one of their meeting rooms or something, that would be how I could see that conversation getting some traction to get that education out there. We all benefit from continuing education. They have stated that if you do one continuing education class per year, your risk of being in an accident reduces it it's like 89%. It just shows a willingness to learn and to be open to instruction and a different attitude toward your flight operations. And it's a pretty shocking number if you just take one class. And most of the classes are 1 to 4 points, usually about an hour, hour and a half. 2 is about the longest. I did a 4-hour one recently, a safety class. So there's a ton of free education out there. And then if FAST would come do something in person, that would help. And then we do have an FAA guy on the field. I don't know, what he brings to the table for us, but he was at the air show doing all those inspections. So I do think we have the ability to lever fast and to get them to join in the conversation and get a different voice and a little bit different authority. So I appreciate you guys taking the lead on that. Thank you. There is a listening session for Sundance Film Festival. It's next week or the week after. I'm going to be either in San Diego or have San Diego in my office with my job, so I'm not going to be able to go. I think Dr. Grunsfeld is going to go to the listening session, and it's an opportunity to go hear what economic development is talking about and what the picture looks like for Sundance Film Festival. For the city of Longmont, we will be a major host for the festival, without a doubt. There's some good ideas about what we can do at the airport to create a welcoming environment, including banners, somebody stationed there to help them get rides, have easy access to share rides and taxi service, rental cars, and then really put out the red carpet, for lack of a better term, and be able to greet them on the tarmac and give them a warm welcome to Longmont. We'd be getting the lighter jets and the turbine, we won't be getting the Gulfstreams. They'll go down to Metro, but we will see increased traffic with Sundance. And we have that opportunity with football games and some of the things that happen, that people come up and land at our airport, and to kind of improve our appearance on that. It makes it a little bit more attractive. So that listening session is, I didn't bring my calendar in, it's like the 29th or I can't remember the date. But the city, I've got information if anybody's interested in going to that. And I think Dr. Grunsfeld is going to try to. We'll make sure somebody goes. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is the air show. I have not even begun what was going to be a 2026 air show, because we've got other fish to fry and funding for it. So probably need to push it to 2027. And if anybody is interested in, I need leadership. I need that leadership team built first for the air show. And if anybody's interested in that, if they can indicate their interest separately, I'd appreciate that. And then we can start kicking around some dates and looking at competing dates. Being in 2026 was the ideal, because Loveland has the big show this year. So next year we're going to compete again with Colorado Springs. They're going to have their show where we are in the off year with them if we went with 2026, but I don't know. And I'm getting a lot of calls now from people about the air show. So just to let you know, I'm the one holding it up because of the bandwidth. And then I think that's it for me. Dan.
Just a piece of information. On the 21st of June, the local EAA is sponsoring a fly-in at KLMO. Apparently, the features are a pancake breakfast, a swap meet, a silent auction, aircraft displays, of course, vendor booths, of course, and door prizes. I have no idea what those are, but hopefully, it's a new series. That's what it is.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just want to make a couple comments. We've talked about noise abatement. We've talked about landing fees. But, it's like the $250 million bike path. Has anyone suggested that bicycle riders put transponders on their bikes and help pay for that? No, I've not heard anything about that. And then noise. If you look around the city of Longmont, how many thousands upon thousands of homes are being built right now? Right now. There's another 400 going at the end of Airport Road, plus another 20 to 30 houses on a little 7-acre parcel across the street from those 400 homes. Has anybody talked about vehicle noise? I walked home last week, and there were planes flying around. I didn't hear the planes. I heard vehicles. So I understand you guys and the noise and planes flying over your house, but, spread it around a little bit. Go to the city council and complain about all the construction, you know, and yeah, there's been a few off-airport landings. So does Modern West want to build right there? I mean, come on. Anyway, I got it off my chest.
Would anybody else like to speak? Do you have something?
I'll speak on noise and fees from a student perspective. As myself, as a student pilot, it's kind of a give and take with the noise in the schools. These are young instructors who maybe they just finished themselves their own training, and there is a high turnover. There's not exactly the best training really anywhere for an instructor. This isn't like a 9 to 5 job. This is your students are setting the hours. The surrounding airports have the same concern for the sound. I mean, Boulder nearly lost their airport because of this noise. Longmont, we have the benefit of having a non-towered airport with an easy airspace. Erie, while it may be non-towered, does not have an easy airspace. It is right by Broomfield. There's also time constraints. If you do want to locate to another area to do 5 touch and goes here and go to Erie. And then there's also the cost of training because of that time constraint. Like the average cost is $14,000, $20,000 to finish just your private pilot's license. Many of these students cannot afford that or taking out subprime loans. So it's important to put yourself in the shoes of a student or a fresh instructor. If we're having these issues, it may be beneficial to call the schools, report the concerns that are imperative to an individual. And on the daily landing fees, those will have a chilling effect for our aviation community. Possible less flights because just another cost. This will cause a decrease in revenue for our airport, and as the revenue report that just came out from the state, it was pretty decent for us. So, things to think about.
Thank you, Matthew. I will add that if you go to, it's very interesting, where the financial report came from for the state. You can go look at, you can go out to the website and see how they come up with these numbers. You have to look at each page and figure out what you're looking for, but there is information on how Kimley Horn derived the numbers that are in that beautiful report. There's the slideshow, and then there's a video. Have you looked at that, Levi? It's pretty cool. They go through the year, and they show you all the flights departing by month and all the flights coming in with the U.S. map and I think like the Virgin Islands. And then it starts to collect, and the dots get larger for common traffic, and there's a few planes at our airport that make regular routes to other places, and that starts to show up. And it's pretty interesting to see, throughout the year where flights are coming. You see them leaving, where they're going to, and where they're coming back. The site is the ColoradoAviationSystem.com. There's a lot of information out there. This report with the economic impact numbers, it tells how they're deriving those numbers. And of course, we're part of a state system. We're part of a federal system, but we're the part of the state system that we do benefit from. In specifically the grants that we ask for are our fuel tax flow fees that we pay at the pump that go into the state because it's a tax, and then it gets returned to us through grant applications. So our grants are not free money, student loans that aren't going to get paid back, stuff like that. It's our fuel flowage that is collected by the state that then we get to call back to use to take care of our airport. And this also explains just where they're getting the data and how they're measuring it. It's pretty interesting. I spent quite a bit of time out there looking, but the video is the third one down, and it's pretty interesting to watch. And it's specific to our airport, and then you can look it up for each of the other airports that they reported on. So I recommend that. Again, it's the ColoradoAviationSystem.com, and it talks about the impact and the traffic. Interesting information. Anything else?
If everyone else is done, I do have
Please.
a statement
Thank
to
you.
make also. Councilmember Popkin couldn't be here this evening. He did, however, send me an email. He asked me to read a brief statement. He says, due to a prior work commitment before being appointed to council, I am unable to join you all for tonight's meeting. I did want to provide a brief update. Council was notified late afternoon Sunday of a plane crash in the field west of Longmont. I appreciate the prompt communication from the staff and the quick response from the first responders on the scene. Regarding the voluntary noise abatement procedures, I believe it is important that we aim to not only measure the efficacy of the program, but also explore additional and creative ways to engage and educate pilots. Publishing the voluntary noise abatement procedures and related plans are one part of the equation. To whom and how it's communicated matters greatly, especially on a voluntary compliance program. Lastly, I know there have been questions and concerns about potential policies and fees at the airport. Council continues to consider and evaluate options as a part of the broader strategy of supporting a modern general aviation airport in our region. I look forward to watching and recording from tonight for both public comment and board discussions. Thank you for your continued service, and see you next month.
Thank you. And then did you have anything else?
And I don't. Yep.
All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
It was in-